Woods?
First thing I'd like to say, I re-looked at Smith versus Richmond Township, as your solicitor asked me to do, and deliberations are not included in that judgment. In fact, everybody said that was under deposition that there was no deliberations.
Did you have a lawyer look at it, or did you look at it?
Sir, can I finish speaking once? I mean, you love to interrupt people, I understand that, but you just keep doing it.
You came here, it's like our attorney said
It'd be nice if
week,
the chairman would stop you.
You spew out false information, so go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, can we let him
All right,
speak?
continue.
It does not include deliberations. I read the whole thing. Every time I ask questions that are specific about deliberations or the definition of deliberations. And I keep getting the same result, yes, we do that. Or we're not gonna respond about that for the last 2 meetings. So I think your solicitor is ignoring what you guys are saying and just going off of whatever he wants to. And to be shouted down basically by him and one of these board members over it is ridiculous. That's just my opinion.
Are you an attorney?
Do I need to be?
Well, if you're gonna start citing the law.
I mean, you
Is our
cite things all the
solicitor-
time. You're not an attorney, right?
No, I ask our solicitor. You know that, and you were told to get an attorney and to have him call him.
Are you going
Did
to
you
pay
talk
for
to
my
any-
attorney?
Did you talk to any of the 3 board members about this? Any other lawyers do you talk to?
Would anybody like to speak up on that?
What I will speak to is I am going to stand on what our solicitor has issued. That's who we look to for our legal advice, and that's who we're gonna abide by.
Look, it's
And he has
it's
said that
your-
deliberations
I
are
asked
okay in
you
those
a
meetings,
question,
correct?
But
I'm just
you're
asking the
100%.
chairman.
I'm reading specifically, I don't have it in front of me, so I'm not going to recite what our solicitor recommends to us.
This has been, so another part of this has been a contention since August, since you guys had decided to close down the library and then decided not to have closed down the library. Even if that court case had said, you guys can say whatever you want to in private, the law doesn't say what it says, why wouldn't you start doing more communications in public? Why wouldn't you announce your executive sessions here when you should be? Because that's another part of,
So I ask you, are you in any kind of communications with any of the 3 of us or an attorney? I think your silence says a lot.
So,
Commissioner Gates, would you like to answer that question?
so I will say this, Mr. Woods met with me on Thursday and presented some questions to me and raised some of these same issues. And so I would say this, if it's information gathering in the context of trying to get information from a department head,
Mhm.
information gathering would not, is my understanding based on what the solicitor said, trigger the need for a posting of an agenda or a keeping of minutes. So there's, I think, just the distinction, and if you read Smith versus Township of Richmond, as well as not both the intermediate appellate decision and the Pennsylvania Supreme Court decision, if you read them together, they always say that it is a fact-intensive, sort of case by case.
No deliberations,
So did you-
administrative based
So I would say
communications.
this, is deliberations is defined within the Sunshine Act.
Yes.
So did you address him as a commissioner or an attorney?
That was
As
in my
commissioner.
role as a commissioner.
Yes,
So we
there's
have
no
two,
way
we
of
have
concern.
we have 2 attorneys different firms that we use, and we address them all the time. Look.
So the question I have is,
I'm not done.
are
All
they
these
saying that
open-
deliberations
listen,
does not have to happen in
listen.
public?
All these open record requests are of your.
That's a different
right.
subject.
But I'm going someplace, and I'd like you to just be quiet. Are within your right, all of them. Coming in here is within your right, talking to attorneys within your right, getting our solicitor for you to approach is within, our right to have you do to make sure it's crystal clear. But what this is doing, because I think you do this in Canton Township too, what this is doing is costing taxpayers tens of thousands of dollars. I'll bet what do you think we got in all this with your open records and stuff, which is a right, but how much do we have in it, in money?
with this conversation, are you attempting to get me to stop doing open
No,
records
I
requests?
said it's all within your
Then why
right.
is it
But what
being
I'm
brought up?
saying is, if there's a point between within your right and making sure government is honest, and
And
someplace between.
I would like to remind you that when we have had to go to the state on the open records requests, the vast majority of the time I either win or it gets withdrawn because the records are finally provided. The state only comes involved, your attorneys only really become involved when the records aren't provided, and they should be. I constantly win at state level. So when you are discussing about how much money I am costing this county, it is not about how much I am costing the
Understand what I
county.
say, and I would also tell you.
Is
that
how much
you've
you
been
are
told-
costing the county by not providing the records that you are supposed to provide.
Listen, you can fully contact our attorneys. We've given you that opportunity to do. And I'll just leave it at that.
Have your attorney said that you are permitted to deliberate during these meetings, 9 to whenever,
During which meetings?
the department head pre-agenda
So they're
meetings?
not, we find out that they don't need to be open to the public. Am I correct, Michelle, on that? We've had two different opinions on that. They've come back the
Correct, they
same
do
way.
not have to be public.
They don't have to be open to the public. We've offered to be open to the public. Anybody wants to come, come. You guys have come to our meetings, correct?
Yes.
Chief? What do we do, what do
Were
commissioners do?
they invited at those times, like for specific meetings? This is
When
really
we're
hard.
When we're information gathering, I talk to you on the phone privately how many times?
Numerous times.
Numerous times. On everything from public safety, and then from that, just like on this, then I take it to the
Has your,
commissioners that comes here. and-
has your solicitor stated that you can do deliberations during those meetings? I mean, you've talked to multiple attorneys about this. The answer should be able to roll right off your
We do our
tongue.
deliberations between the vote. You listen to it here all day long. He
I
calls for
hear-
the vote, he calls for other actions, we talk about it, and we vote on it. But in fact finding, we don't do deliberations. They're two different things.
So I would say is that if we are gathering information in an information gathering session from somebody with knowledge or information about a
Yes,
particular
I
topic,
understand.
and then they give that to us, if it later then informs our decision or assists us in taking an official action at a meeting, I would say that I think if you look at the agenda.
The problem I have is the first time I brought this up
Sure.
is I said, do you guys communicate between each other about these subjects at these meetings? I get told yes. I ask if deliberations is happening. I don't get any answer at all. And considering very little conversation happens during these meetings here, especially about major topics, it throws into the question for the community, especially with everything that has been happening with the library, with what it looked like the commissioners had been doing things in secret before they got called out. You would think that you guys would be careful about your words when asked these questions. You would maybe want to be more open than just what the law says you have to be. And it's not looking like that. I mean, you're saying come to these meetings. Well, I asked for
I didn't
the
say come, I
agenda.
said you can come. And they're not necessarily.
I asked
need to be
for
open to
the
public.
agenda, or not the agenda, the schedule on Tuesday of last week. I received it Monday at 1:40.
I was on vacation.
I understand, but I mean,
Friday.
you were in on Tuesday and Wednesday, right?
So.
No, I wasn't in on Wednesday.
Okay. Your auto reply had only said Thursday and Friday, I believe. So I was just, but I mean, that makes it very difficult either way
So.
to determine if we want to come to these meetings and waste an entire day here possibly when a meeting may not even happen.
So I'll just say that if you look at the agenda today, okay?
Yep.
Based on what you had raised at the last meeting.
Yep.
And the conversation and your concerns that you raised with me on Thursday. I think I've endeavored, and we have endeavored, if you look at our agenda, to provide some of the information about the background of each of these.
It was more clear on, like, the funding thing. That was great for where the funding was coming from. I like that you explained to us what is happening with it. But there, between the three of you, there's very little, if no communication. And I'm not just talking about just recently, but for the last couple of years, very little communications between any of you on these agenda items, especially the more complicated ones.
So I would say if there's an information gathering session at which, we get some knowledge, and you're in a meeting, I think that there reaches a point where we say, let's put that on the agenda, and that's what we do, but it's informed by the information we get. And those meetings, as I think has been raised by the other commissioners, are open to the public. I understand that it can be sometimes a challenge, but if you look at those meetings that we have here versus, you know, the information gathering
Yep.
sessions we have prior, I can speak for myself. I don't think that there's an attempt to hide the ball here. I am, you know, when it reaches a certain point, I will say, you know, let's put it, and I believe that's what
I
takes
think a
place.
lot of us would prefer if a lot more of the discussion was happening during these meetings,
Okay.
because we're not getting much of, I mean, we're starting to get some discussion, very little. You're informing us more, which is wonderful, but there's very little coming from these meetings other than the vote itself. And when you go back through the videos of the commissioners' meetings, especially when this subject is brought up, it sounds like some of the commissioners believe that no communications really has to happen at these meetings. That's just the vote. And that may not be what they believe, but that's what it sounds like and that's what it looks like. And to help the public, to bring some more trust between the public and the commissioners, more discussion happening during these meetings would be extremely helpful.
Well, I'll just tell you this much. My attorneys will, you know, I asked them, I wanna make sure that everything we do is
Your
legal.
attorneys or the counties?
Our
Okay.
solicitors. You're not gonna drive the way I do business, sir. You're not gonna do it. I've done this for quite a while. I'm open. I take every call. You know what? My cell phone is my desk phone. Everybody can call me. I'm not gonna get into this all day long, back and forth with you. I'm
Nothing
trying to
had
blow out a
seemed
light bulb
open
here.
during
But
the
I'm just gonna
library
tell you,
communications.
you're not changing the way we do business. We're doing it legally. We will continue to do it legally. I don't hear a lot from the public. James, you can call me. If I've ever not answered a phone call from you or
I
gotten right
think
back
you guys
to you, I
heard a
can't call.
lot from the public during the library
James,
session.
just quiet a second. Have I ever not answered your call?
Yeah, you do.
I don't care if it's midnight, I answer people's calls. Chief, if these guys just protected this courthouse. You know what they did with this courthouse? You know what they
Mhm.
did? We had a guy that was, threatened to have mass casualty here, didn't we, Chief?
Correct.
These brave people
Went out and
held
picked
it
it
off,
up.
that's right. We have communications with our law enforcement, we have communications with everybody. It's just you, sir, are the only one that has a problem. You have with Canton Township. So if people out there, you can put this in, if you have questions, please call us.
And you might
I'm not-
just get told you're a problem while you're at the meetings.
Yeah, I didn't say you're a
Miss-
problem, I said it's all your right to do, but
Miss-
what happens is.
But you're constantly making it sound like I'm
not
a
ta-
problem.
Listen, I'm done with you.
Mr. Chairman, I think it's time to move on to something else.
I agree.
I have something to add as far as what Mr. Wood said. Apparently, if you deliberate in these, department head meetings, that makes them an official meeting under the Sunshine Act, and you have to abide by the Sunshine Act, is that right?
I think that's a question best directed to our solicitor. However, I would say this is, go back and look at the intermediate court opinion and the Supreme Court opinion in Smith versus Township of Richmond. And you can certainly take a look at that and confer with our solicitor. I think that, I don't wanna try to recapture or restate what is in there, but that is the governing law, and that sets forth kind of where the
Right.
standard is regarding deliberations versus information gathering, et cetera, and it provides a nice synopsis.
James, do you have a law degree?
No,
My
but
point is, have your paper, clarify it with our solicitor, your paper lawyer. So that way you get it on legal. Would you agree,
Mr.
guys? You deal in legal stuff all the time.
Mr.
Yeah.
Chairman,
They probably don't have law degrees
I would
either.
say this, is certainly people are entitled to ask questions. We have solicitors who can provide some guidance certainly if there's a feeling that they want to, that's within their right or not.
All right.
But it's not an obligation, and certainly they can ask these questions.
And what we're not gonna do, what I'm not gonna do is I'm not gonna restate what our solicitor's advice and what their recommendations are and what their opinions are. I'm not a lawyer, I'm not gonna restate what a lawyer states, it's what our solicitor says.
Now, are they considered executive
That's why have your
sessions?
lawyer call our lawyer, that's what Attorney Foster said last week, or last meeting. And that way you'll have a legal opinion on your lawyer and his lawyer. If your lawyer disagrees, then they can hash it out.
I just wanna say that, at these, department head meetings, I can't imagine that there isn't deliberation, because Mr. Wood brought up this particular department head meeting where it was discussed whether to buy the Leroy's sub shop building to turn it into a veterans center, and I just can't believe that there wasn't some sort of like deliberation on whether that would be a good idea to do, because there's a lot of county money involved in buying it. So if deliberations are part of these meetings, then
James, haven't you sit in on our department head meetings before?
No, I haven't.
Have our door ever been shut to you before? To come in and sit down? Has it ever been shut to you?
No, it hasn't. I
No,
know.
it hasn't. Come, please. We've never, ever told James or the Daily or the Morning Times or the Rocket Courier, you can't, we are accommodating 24/7. I know every commissioner that I've ever worked for takes calls, always, always, always. Please come. Can we move?
I just, okay, so I have some other questions on some other
Yep.
things. Okay, so there,